Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Your Delusional podcast hosted by myself, LaTerra, Wair. Okay, sorry, I had to fix the blinds. They were doing weird things. But hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode. Welcome back to another week. I hope that you guys are having an amazing week. My week has been really good. I'm doing 75 hard, like I've told you guys already, and I think I'm really getting into the groove of it this week. Like, things are really clicking for me. Everything is making a little bit more sense, and I think that's because I really had to tell myself that you need to focus on the structure and focus on the things that you're doing. And yeah, it's been really good. I've been taking more walks. I've been doing more things outside and all that kind of cool stuff. Before we get into the episode, I do want to say one of my really long time subscribers and stuff is located where some of the tropical hurricanes and stuff like that are happening in the storms. And so I do just want to send out a wish of like good being and well-being to those who are affected by the storms and those who've been affected by any of the storms and stuff that's going on. Weather is changing a lot, and not to be that tree hugging girly, but like climate change is real and things are real and we need to take care of the earth. So anyway, so this week has just been that for me. I've been in school in my new class. I just got my grades back from my last class as well as week one of the new semester, and I did a lot better than I thought I was going to do. So that's really good. And yeah, but that's what's been up for me. How have you guys been this week? Has there been anything really cool happening? Are you guys going to be trick-or-treating today? Are you going to be taking your kids trick-or-treating? This episode is coming out on Halloween, so happy Halloween, everyone. Also, I hope that you guys are having a good Halloween day. I hope that it's full of spooky fun, little surprises for you, and please be sure to be safe, be responsible, drive safe, and if you are drinking, please do not drive. Thank you. Getting into it this week. Hello, everybody. I wanted to talk about, because this has come up just in like my personal life and things like that, and just like the relationship of, or in the realm of like relationships and love and all this kind of stuff. I tell people all the time, I'm not an expert. A lot of things that work for me don't work for everybody. I also do feel like I'm a little, how do I say this? I think that for such a long time, I craved being in relationships and being with people because I was really scared to be by myself. And that was just a comfort thing. Like, especially when I left my parents' house and I wasn't around like my siblings and stuff all the time, who've always been my comfort place, right? And so because of that, I've always kind of like clinged to relationships. That has not always led me to be in the best situation. And I think that leaving out of my previous relationship, I really took time and I gave myself like a window. I was like, you will not date anyone for at least a year. You will not like be sitting here and pursuing things like this, because you need time to sit by yourself. You need time to ensure that you're making the right decisions and all that kind of stuff. And that's more so where my love and dating and all that kind of stuff is stemmed out of now, but that is not everybody's story. And I do get that that's not everyone's story. So today, I really want to just talk about modern day love and relationships and everything. I don't want to be that person who's just like a relationship advice channel, but realistically, in this age that I'm in, navigating dating is something that was a big thing in my life at a point, you know, like currently I'm not navigating dating. Currently I'm in a relationship. And so I'm not having to sit here and navigate through dating obstacles. But before that, that was something that was crazy. And it was never something that I wanted to talk about. When I now talk to my friends and stuff like that, like they feel like I had a really good grasp on relationships and I really knew what I was doing. And the truth, no, I didn't. I didn't at all. I was just, as I say, fumbling through and whatever stuck. So because of that, I just kind of wanted to open up a little bit more about me dating and me navigating going through love. I have male and female subscribers that are kind of like, that have talked about how it's hard for them to date, or it's hard for them to know where to start, where to find interest and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not really sure how to always give advice. So I feel like the best form of advice is just for me to share my story. Starting off, I want to say that I started dating older than I feel like most people did around me. I didn't begin to have actual full like adult like relationships until I was at least 18. I wasn't the person who like went through 4 or 5 boyfriends and stuff like that in high school. And I'm not saying that in like a derogatory way. I'm saying that like I just did not have that dating experience. That is something that I did yearn for at a point in there, but I think that like other things are more important to me. And so I didn't know how to prioritize like putting myself out there. And like, frankly, a lot about being that it girl and being chosen is about how you carry yourself, to be very for real with you. I see people all the time who are definitely very beautiful people and they just don't feel that way. So they feel very shy. And me, someone living in this body now and living in myself now, like if I would have carried myself better back then, I probably would have had better results in like what I wanted dating wise, but that wasn't the case. So I started dating when I was much older, when I was an adult, and when I kind of like grew into myself and understood like a little bit more about who I was as a person, so I could carry that into relationships and into flirting and into all that kind of stuff. Before that, my first experience of a boyfriend was someone who I dated between 11th and 12th grade, and I had dated this person for 6 months, I believe, and it wasn't really like a relationship, if that makes any sense. It was kind of more so just like a high school boyfriend girlfriend, like you see each other at school and you're like, oh, that's my boyfriend type of situation. We went out to the movies, I think once, and yeah, the relationship kind of ended. And like, we're still cool to this day. Like, we're such good friends, right? We're super cool. There was nothing crazy that happened to where it's like, oh, we can't be friends or anything like that. Like, it was such for me, a very innocent boyfriend girlfriend relationship compared to like what I do know relationships to be now and all the depth and feeling and all that kind of stuff. So I would say that my very first real experience with a relationship was when I was an adult. My very first relationship with another person that was like more serious, and there was like thoughts and talking about real life things and actions and stuff like that, and going on like dates and dinner and all this kind of stuff, was with a person who was not just my person. There is a video on my channel. I'll link it up here. Sorry if you're an audio listener. I'll try and see if I can link the video for y'all as well. In the video, I kind of explain how the person who I thought that I was dating at the time was actually dating someone else the entire time. They were dating someone who they ended up getting married to, and then after that proceeded to lie to me about them being married and saying that they weren't. So that was my very first experience with any type of like relationship or situationship or like anything. And for me, that kind of like structured a big part of what relationships were, because for me, that made me feel very distrusting of a lot of people going forward. Your first relationship is something that is really like shaping to you. I think it's really hard to step out of a first relationship and just like not be angry sometimes, because I think that sometimes when you think that you're doing everything right and you're pouring everything into it, it just makes you really upset that things didn't work out. But the reality of growing up and the reality of life is that sometimes two people can just really be in a relationship and things just don't always work out. And that's just kind of the truth. The way that you go about approaching things not working out is something that's way more important than it not working out. Because I think if you do damage control along the way, especially by like addressing the issues and stuff like that, it just kind of boils down to it, in that it's just like not a compatibility thing. Personally feel like walking away from a situation or whatever, neither person is going to be necessarily like super happy or whatever, and one person might resent the other person a little bit. And I, more times than not in my personal experience, it's kind of felt like if the other person is not resentful of one another, that there may have been some gaslighting going on in the situation. And that is what it seems like from my personal experience and just from people who I've personally talked to about their experience. Like, not saying that both people have to be angry, I guess, but from where I've stood at, usually the person who is angrier about the situation, it is because they are the person who like things aren't being met on their end of the situation. And so because of that, they're like a little bit more upset that it didn't work out, because it seems as if you're putting more time or effort into the situation, you know? And so the responsible thing I think to do is to walk away, and you have to just take the losses, and you have to grow as a person from what you gained and what you didn't gain. And, you know, sometimes you're going to be the one that takes the L, unfortunately. But I feel like you can't take an L if you were growing as a person. And that's something that's like important to like keep in the back of your mind. Understanding that, I went through this phase of just kind of like not really taking anyone serious, and then just leaning into this arc of like figuring out myself and becoming like who I was and liking what I liked and figuring out what I did like, what I didn't like. In that, I really learned what I was and wasn't going to put up with. And I really was being kind of choosy, like is the best way to put that. Like I was a very choosy person before I got into my next serious relationship. And then getting into my next serious relationship, I think that was also a time where I should have been more choosy, but I was kind of like love bombed. Yeah, I think that I was slightly love bombed and kind of like deceived slightly in the beginning, because I was led to believe that this person was a way that they weren't. Like the writing was in the wall, but also it was like very faintly on the wall. It presented itself as more time came along, and it's just like one of those, but my actual first serious relationship with like a person who like I was in a very long-term relationship with, who I lived with my first time and all this kind of stuff, was something that happened over COVID. And so because of that, that also bred this thing that was like, we're spending a lot of time together. We're in this relationship a long time. We're seeing each other every day. So it's kind of hard to not sit in that honeymoon phase, because you're not really living in the real world. Like COVID didn't really feel like the real world that we live in now. And I think that we're navigating back to that, and back to like pre-shutdown, before everything was like kind of going wrong and stuff. I think that with that, we are seeing a lot of relationships end right now. I personally am seeing a lot of relationships end, and a lot of these relationships were kind of started during COVID. And I feel like sometimes when you're around someone for a very long time, and then that's just what you're doing, when maybe a lot of time has passed by, like now COVID's over and everything, but some people were in those relationships for that entire 4 to 5 years. And it's kind of like, how do you tell yourself that this isn't the person you're supposed to be with, and let go of all these feelings, when you really have to look at the fact that, yeah, we were actually stuck inside together? It is going to feel like that. It is going to feel like you've known this person. And like the brain has a crazy way of making you feel like you've known someone your whole life. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, you've known them 2 years. Unfortunately, 2 years isn't a really long time in the grand scheme of life. That's something that I think is a very hard lesson for people to learn, because when you're living through 2 years, this is all example. I keep saying 2 years, but I'm just giving the example. When you live through 2 years, it feels like a very long time, because you feel the seconds, the minutes, the hours that are passing by. If you were to look in a textbook and someone said there was a war for 100 years, but for 2 years out of that 100 years, there was peace, that doesn't feel like a lot. You know what I mean? That doesn't feel like, it's great for those 2 years that you're living through it, but then you have 98 other years that suck. Sometimes us as people, we really get stuck in those 2 years. We really get stuck in the liking someone so much and feeling like this is the end all be all. And unfortunately, it's not the end all be all. Unfortunately, like it will not be the end all be all. And it's easier to cut something off that is 2 years long than it is to cut something off that's 40 years long that you knew was not going to work at the 2 years. And sometimes it feels like it's impossible. That feeling sucks. I get that, guys. I totally, like, my previous relationship, that sucked. Like, it's not a good feeling, but the thing that helped me get over that hump is thinking to myself, like, do I want to let this go, or do I want to keep going with this for the next 10 years and like hope that it turns out right on the end, when more than likely it's not going to? There's not enough evidence besides just how I emotionally feel right now to support that. So like, I can't do that. That leads me into the next topic, being oftentimes in relationships, we see a lot of red flags is not that, because we're looking through these rose colored glasses. And I think that we as people need to stop looking through rose colored glasses. We need to call a spade a spade. We need to call a flag, because that is what's going to ultimately help you in the end, to distinguish, not wasting your time, not feeling like you've been like gotten over on or anything like that. We just got to stop letting things kind of go for the sake of just letting things kind of go, because that's not really helping anyone. That's not helping ourselves, anything like that. When I say this very specifically, though, I do mean that when you are looking to be in a relationship, when we are looking at the chaos that is kind of breaking out of relationships right now, a lot of it is because boundaries are being crossed. Whether you think that your boundaries are silly or not is for you to understand. You have to understand that you can't bend and break boundaries for a specific person, because a boundary should be a boundary. If you are making up a rule to pinpoint or to poke at a certain thing, and every time you have a different rule, that's very different, and that's not a boundary. But you need to be very strong in your boundaries, because realistically, once someone starts to cross your boundaries, or once you have let the boundary be crossed and you've stated that that's okay, that is a red flag. Someone who you care about in a relationship very specifically should not be crossing boundaries, because that is something that you have said is bothering you, and a person that is continuing to trigger you and be okay with triggering you, that's really not okay. And too often I think that people accept someone crossing their boundary and they're just like, oh, they're only going to do this one time. No, they shouldn't even do it the one time. I believe in giving grace to people. If they do it a one time, fine. If you're someone who's extra gracious, if they do it twice, fine. But that third time, cut it. We got to cut the cameras. We're not doing that. We're not continuing to cross boundaries. That's something that's super important. It's just to make sure that you aren't letting someone cross your boundaries, and that you aren't seeing that as just like a sometimes thing. That's a really big red flag, and we need to see that as red flags. And that can help with so many issues. That can stop so many things right there, and you can really know if the relationship is for you or if it's not for you with this specific person. Another one of those things is sometimes people feel like they have to struggle, right? And whether that be emotionally, financially, location wise, whatever. I believe that a little struggle in a relationship is okay. A little struggle makes people stronger, right? I definitely get that. But I do not think that your struggle should feel like it is something that is happening all the time, and that it is now making your relationship feel impossible. I think that that is very crazy, and I don't think that struggle love like that is necessarily healthy. That's not something that you need. Sometimes you need a little separation, and I think sometimes people need to separate if they're struggling too much separately or together, and then they need to come back when things are going to work out for them. They need to come back when everything is in a better set of timing for them. When you're young, it's super easy to fall victim to a struggle of mindset and to want to be in love like that with somebody, because everybody's young, everybody's trying to get their stuff together. But you have to kind of be conscious and look around and be like, okay, are we struggling and this is someone who's just going to be comfortable and sit in struggling? Or are we struggling and I'm with someone who also wants to not struggle, wants to get out? You really have to be conscious of, because if not, you will find yourself just kind of in this place. You don't want to be in that place. That's another red flag that I feel like people very much so don't pay attention to, and they kind of just grow and grow and grow. And then the little rose colored tint starts to go real red. Just be conscious of that. Be mindful of that. The last little thing that I kind of want to think about is just the idea of, partnership is not looking at someone and being like, I think that they have the potential to be amazing. I think that it's great to see potential in a person and to see potential within your partner, but I do not think that people should date for potential, nor do I think that you should date someone because they're starting here and you know what they can be. Sometimes that is when you are starting to put your own expectations onto your partner, And that's not fair, especially if that's something that they never said for themselves. If that's something that you just want, you should find someone who is already exuding those characteristics. And so that is something that is more likely based off things that you've seen. But I don't think that people should date for potential. I have someone who's definitely dated for potential and it hasn't gotten me in the best places. And I don't think that I've ever really heard of a situation where dating for potential necessarily worked out without like some type of skill and everything that was really showing that. But also, I don't think you should date someone based off like what they could potentially bring you in the future. That's kind of crazy as hell. Do you guys know any examples of that? Or like, give me like a personal example if you have any yourself. Like you dated someone and you thought, oh my gosh, they're going to be this like amazing X, Y, and Z. And like, that is what happened. And so you're glad. I feel like more so I've seen myself like dating someone and there are issues that I've seen, but I've been like, oh, I think they're going to figure it out. They're going to figure it out. And that's the potential that then upsets me. Just wrapping everything up, I really want to talk about the concept of right person, wrong time. This is something that I've believed in my entire life. This is something that me and my friend Alpha, we wrote a short film about in college. And it's something that really strikes a core value with me. I think that sometimes you can meet a person at the wrong time in life. Like you may be in a situation, they may be in a situation, maybe one person isn't like financially stable enough to be in a relationship and they just don't feel comfortable and like you are, and you guys have to just pass, and then things go and time happens and everyone's now seeing someone else. People have moved apart and sometimes it comes back. In my current relationship, I am with a person who I've known for a very long time, and it has come back around. And at the time of me meeting them, I also did like have an attraction to them, but I was not in a situation to be with that person at the time. And I just had to tell myself like, that's very unfortunate, I guess. Like at the time, I didn't think it was unfortunate because I believed that I was happy with my current partner. But it was something that was unfortunate because I was like, wow, I'm meeting someone who I feel like I really click with and that's like super cool. And then I really could feel a connection with. But I guess that's just not how life pans out, you know? Sometimes you have to submit to the thought that a person who you may feel like is for you is just not for you and it's not your time to be together. And that's what that is. And that's what that has to be. And with that, I have to say, sometimes things do come back around. Sometimes you get to experience that person who you didn't think you were going to get to experience. You get to just have like a good time, a fun time. And with that, you really have to, it comes with this like paradox of feeling like, am I with the person I'm supposed to be with because I wouldn't be feeling this way about this other person? Because me personally, I've never been like overly attracted to someone or anything like that when I am in a relationship with someone, because I feel like my partner is my partner for me and that is why I'm with them. So feeling that at that time was like kind of weird to me. And I think that navigating through that did help me understand though, like, sometimes you have to really have good discernment. I know that's a hot word right now on the internet or whatever, but sometimes you really do have to have good discernment and knowing like who is for you and who is not for you. You have to be able to discern, especially in romantic relationships, what is love bombing and what is truth, what is someone's actual characteristics and what is their representative that they're sending to the table for you, right? And with that, it helps you navigate. And I think that being someone who believes in right person, wrong time, that's always helped me navigate thinking that my person will come to me when they are supposed to. And whether it be the person I've met previously or whether it not be that person, I am definitely not going to sit here and like worry about it and like overly concern myself because I believe that what is for me is for me. Because I believe that, it's just like, I strongly am someone who does believe in right person, wrong time. I think that my current relationship is a proof of that. And it wasn't on any weird, like me and this person have always been talking and scheming and nothing like that. It's literally just something that happened like to correlate at the same time, you know? And so that's really cool. But yeah, guys, that's really my relationship story. To be honest, that's all the experiences that I really have. There are things like within the mix of that, everybody that I have entangled with, I have not dated. Realistically, I've had 3 boyfriends my whole life. So yeah. And yeah, that's just kind of like, that is what that is. And I've just had different relationship experience, from dating like athletes to dating people who are artsy, to dating like very niche people, creatives, the married guy, like just stuff like that. I think that I've had a good plethora. It's really opened my mind to seeing that people are people, and like every person is different. When navigating through modern love, I think that you have to be very open. You have to be willing to hear people. And like I said before, you got to have that good discernment, to be very honest with you. And that's the only way you're going to get through it. Moving into your delusional statement. Your delusional statement says, you will be the happiest when you meet your soulmate. I think that's delusional. I think that's completely delusional. I don't know if I believe in soulmates necessarily. I believe that people can be kindred souls and people can be like twin flames in a way, but I don't know if I necessarily believe in the idea of a romantic soulmate. I truly think that like the grass is greener where you water it, right? I think that if 2 people are really trying and 2 people are showing up for each other every day, and like making each other feel love, preaching to each other's love languages and all that kind of stuff, then like you will feel loved, you will be happy. And even if that does not last forever, that doesn't mean that the love that you felt at that moment or in that time wasn't real. I think that that's super important. Sometimes I think things can have bad endings, but you still feel very loved in that moment. And I don't think that you have to find your soulmate to experience that happiness, because sometimes if you want to be like for real, your soulmate just might be the person that you were with up until the day that you die. But y'all could have broke up tomorrow if you didn't pass. You know what I mean? Like, it's really for me in that moment who you choose to love. And I think that you should be happiest there. And I don't think that someone should ever like wait for their soulmate to be the happiest. In theory, I think the person who you will probably end up with might be the person that you have so much fun with, because y'all should love each other in a very deep capacity, in my personal experience or my personal opinion. And I feel like that is the person who you should like have the most fun with, who should like heal your inner self, and who should help you just like be the happiest version of yourself to lives on this earth, you know? So that's personally what I think. Do you guys think that the happiest, did you guys think that you will be the happiest when you meet your soulmate? Do y'all believe in soulmates? Like, what's y'all's take on the whole like relationship, soulmate, twin flames, kindred spirit? I would love to know. Okay, so let's talk about it for our Halloween edition. What we watching? I'm only gonna do one today, and what we're watching is going to be the infamous, the amazing, the beautiful, the bodacious Sweeney Todd. Guys, Sweeney Todd is one of my favorite musicals. I've never seen the original, but the one that was remade in 2011 with Johnny Depp, I think it ate. I think that the singing, beautiful. The story, beautiful. The coloring. Tim Burton has this way of coloring a movie that's just so gorgeous. You see it in The Corpse Bride. You see it in Alice in Wonderland. Both Alice in Wonderland and Alice in Wonderland: A Twist in Time. You see it in Beetlejuice and A Nightmare Before Christmas. You see it in so many of his films, right? I just love the way that he colors a movie, and I feel like the way that Sweeney Todd, this musical, was put together was so gorgeous. Rest in peace, Mr. Allen. I believe that's his name. He was amazing in this movie. The movie was very like, it's a very give and pull. One of my favorite scenes is at the very, very end of the movie when you kind of go through the whole time and then you understand why Sweeney Todd is doing what he's doing just to realize he's been deceived, right? But also on the other end of him being deceived, realizing that the lie that he was deceived on, it was the truth. It was like completely the truth. The person just didn't like pass away like he had thought. And so I was like, what happened to her was still real and that was still messed up. This movie's really good though. If I didn't already watch this, I definitely would be watching this. And I'm also going to lie to you guys. I'm going to give you two because in the same realm of this with the same character, if you have not seen Edward Scissorhands is also a very great movie. It plays really well with colors. It gives you a very liminal space vibe while also giving you a sense of community. The way that the art is like pieced together, everything is gorgeous. So these are my two movies in my what you watch. These are my two movies for what we're watching. And let me know what you guys are watching. Let me know what you're going to watch tonight for your Halloween scary spooky movie. If you are not into scary Halloween movies, let me know what you are watching instead of that. But with all that being said, we have come to the end of today's episode. Thank you guys so much for being here with me. If you're an audio listener, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And please be sure to rate the podcast up above. And if you are a viewer, thank you so much for viewing. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know how we were doing. If you're someone who's interested in knowing more about the behind the scenes for the production company, be sure to follow us on Instagram at LT Legacy Productions or on Facebook. And if you want to know more about me, keep up with me and what I'm doing in my day-to-day life, be sure to follow me at the LaTerra Wair on Instagram and X. And yeah, but with all that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in with me for another weekly episode of the Your Delusional Podcast. The Your Delusional Podcast is produced by LT Legacy Productions and hosted by LaTerra Wair.